So who are you?
I'm Ron. I'm the CEO of Hacktics, the company we're sitting in, which specializes in hacking, founded in 2004. And I'm one of the founders and one of the partners.
Okay. And who are you?
I'm Ofer Maor. I'm the CTO of Hacktics. I'm also one of the founders, and I've been dealing with information security and application security for 15 years.
Yeah. And we're here on our tour of Israel and trying to see some really interesting companies, and several people said I had to come and see you guys because you're doing some really interesting work. And before the camera came on, you were showing me basically how to hack into banks' websites and do all sorts of funny business. And that the point of visiting here isn't to learn to do that; it's to protect these sites, right?
Right.
So what is the state of security? What's happening right now from your viewpoint? Because you're studying this problem in a way that most people have no idea.
Yeah, so security is, as I said, I've been in this space for 15 years. When I started, it was pretty esoteric. There were very few people dealing with security, and that was mainly because the number of attacks was still pretty low, and it's been increasing steadily since. We see more and more attacks. We see more and more attacks going from what used to be just kids or some small criminals going into the mass production. We see organized crime, we see a lot of theft, we see a lot of international crime involving cyber attacks. And this obviously creates a problem for organizations and creates a need for more security and protect against it.
Well, you showed me some pretty simplistic script or SQL injection hacks, which I'm sure they still are there. You can probably still break into some systems, but I would expect that most banks and most websites now are to a higher level, but I don't know if that's really true. Is that true? What are you finding out there?
Yeah, so, if you look at the customers, they're the ones that are still didn't do a lot of security and their state isn't much better, but obviously the bigger banks and e-commerce sites have already started doing a lot of work on security. So their situation is better, but the question is how much better, because it's a constant mouse and cat problem. We get the security a little bit better, the attackers get a little bit more sophisticated. Unfortunately, we still see in the project that we do and in the test that we do that most sites are still penetratable.
Yeah.
And it gets a little more complicated. So that's why we invest more in training of our people, invest more in really building and developing these techniques. We also see that a lot of the new attacks evolve more around business logic and logical attacks, not just the simple technical problems like SQL injection and cross-site scripting, although these are still very prominent. But we see a lot of more context-related attacks on the actual flow of the business logic that is implemented in the application, trying to circumvent certain checks that they're obviously security checks, trying to bypass some authentication, authorization mechanisms, and really try to essentially confuse the application into letting you do some things that you're not supposed to.
Yeah, and this is a problem for not just banks and Amazon or whatnot, but even my blog's been hacked recently. And even after I put in place a very pre-advanced measures, they're still breaking in, right? So it's really a cat and mouse kind of game, and it's hard for a normal person to figure out how they're getting in. So I imagine even for a pretty good coder, a developer, it's hard to figure out how their systems are going to get attacked, right?
Right, and well, your blog is a prime target, of course, because through it you can get to a lot of people. But yeah, the main problem with application security is that developers that create the code obviously have to worry about a lot of things, getting it on time, getting it working, bug-free, and security is not always their first priority. And on top of that, most organizations, universities, colleges still don't include this in their education. At best there is one introductory course about security.
Yeah.
And the result is that most applications are inherently created insecurely and then need work to get them secured. So if we look at the evolution of a lot of the organizations, at first they say, okay, we need application security. They start hiring companies such as Hacktics to do penetration testing, security testing, find the problems, and then this gets back to the developers and they need to fix it. But then this creates a new problem because you wrote the app for 2 years, 20 developers, 2 years. Now you bring an external company a month before you need to go into production. We find a whole lot of problems, and suddenly there's a problem because now you can't go into production. There are security risks, and it will take maybe 2, 3, 4 months to fix everything. So this evolved into the next step, which is what we call SDLC, Secure Development Lifecycle. Essentially says what we need to do is get the security as part of the development from the early stage, requirements, design, development, QA, and all these steps, and basically help the developers and the QA to be part of the process and be able to do security on a daily basis.
What are the 5 things that you would say the development team should think about?
I think it's really important for development, first of all, to get training on how to do secure coding, training on how to do testing, and awareness. Okay, I think probably number 1, start from awareness, get to training, then get to have the right infrastructure for writing secure code, the right packages, the right software, and then have the right processes for testing and fixing and testing and fixing and integrate that.
Now you showed me a bank website. Was that done by you to demonstrate how to get into a system using SQL injection?
Yeah, obviously our customers are not happy with us demonstrating on their real sites.
Yeah.
So we created our own website, which it's not just SQL injection. There are a lot of vulnerabilities in it. We have a lot of different vulnerabilities. All of those are things we saw on real systems, banks, e-commerce sites, and so on.
So when you go in and train a company for the first time, do you freak them out? You pull up their website and start going, hey, let's go to town and show you how bad this is? Or?
Of course. And then usually, I almost after every lecture, people come to me and it's like, so how do you live? Do you still use your credit card online? Yeah, I use it online, got insurance. But most people are really unaware of what's out there. Yeah. So the first thing we do is a very pretty quick 1 hour, 2 hour, shock them type of awareness lecture, and then we do the training. And actually we use this platform that I showed you to teach how to find security problem and how to fix security problems.
Yeah.
I think as Ofer said, one of the first things is to lose the innocence that they have right now, because most developers develop the application as if it was meant to be used by good people. Yeah. But usually it's not certain that good people will use the application. So first thing, everybody has to think what will be wrong if I'll do that and that and that. So I think this is the first step to understand that there is the need for security and what will go wrong if.
So what else would you have companies do after they realize, okay, we have to get serious about this? How would you tell whether a team really has gotten advanced in their understanding and protection?
So the first thing that we do with clients that want this kind of company is we train them to do security in their coding. We train them to think like security experts while they're developing, or think about security while they're developing.
What does that look like? Give me just one small example as a coder. How do I have to switch my mindset to be writing secure code?
The first thing that we do is tell them each input that you got from your clients in the interface, sanitize it. Think about what can go wrong with this type of string that you go with into the database. So first thing that you have to think is if the field that is being filled right now is a name, so you don't have to use like a quote or a dot or anything else. This is just a name. So think not what you should input into, but what should go into the database or into this query, and sanitize anything else that is in this string.
Yeah. So if you find an and sign or a quote, get rid of that and just make sure that it has only text in it for a name, right?
Yeah, this is called positive thinking, positive logic. Positive logic says that you transfer information from one place to the other after sanitizing and according to business law, saying that this should be going out, not anything else.
I think the main switch in difference is normally developers QA would think, what is the application supposed to do? And they test it to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. And the mindset of a hacker is saying, well, can this application do some stuff it's not supposed to do? And that is, it's just looking at the problem from the other side. They need to look at their code and think, okay, is there something here I left out, something that could be done with my code?
Yeah.
And it's really, it's really about getting them to understand. What we do in our trainings, basically we show them vulnerable code with different problems in it. We try to show them what are the different things that could be done on this code, and then we tell them how to fix it and how to solve it.
Yeah.
Just, one vulnerability at a time, go over all these different things. But it's also a state of mind, it's not just the technology.
No, it's really a big problem. I remember talking with Mike, I believe it was Michael Howard at Microsoft about these problems and how many problems Microsoft had to deal with to move its company into a secure mindset, right? Any other? So I think we've covered like two. Do you have any others that you work
One
with
of the
companies?
amazing things that there is if you cover like 80% of best practice coding, you're covering 80% of secure development lifecycle.
Yeah.
Because best practice, when you use like one function to go into the database, not everybody go to the database as long as they want, but they have a central point going into the database. So if you want to secure it, you have to secure it once. You secure this one connection to the database. So this is like best practice from Microsoft. So if you do this best practice, we can help you a lot later.
And also, I think it's very important to do secure design. So it's not just some of the problems are obviously in the code, right? You need to the right syntax, but a lot of the bigger problems and those that are a lot harder to fix later are about design. If you start early on and you bring a security expert into the design process, into the thinking team that does the brainstorm for the design, could be an external consultant, could be someone, some focal point in the company for security, that can really help eliminate a lot of the problems before they even happen.
When you see design, are there some things that you can say, hey, that one just needs to be done over, or hasn't been done right, or there's no security thinking here and there is security thinking here? Can you tell me some? Yeah,
I think probably one of the most common problems is relying on client-side security. So basically, it's becoming, again, it's in cycles. Everything technology is in cycles. So now it's becoming a big issue again with all the Ajax, because suddenly we have, again, client-server applications, right?
Yep.
Just different type of client. There's so much business logic going on now in the client side, and you start seeing that people do a lot of things as far as security, in the client side, and obviously everything that's done in terms of security in the client side, it's like it's not done, right? Because the client is controlled by the hacker and can overcome any different type of verification or validation done in the client side, and we see that a lot. We also see a lot of problems relating to content. So people now understand, obviously, they need to encrypt passwords and so on. I just had the other day someone talking about some content system they're building. It's like, do I have to use HTTPS for the pictures and videos and everything as well? It's like, they're private. They're users' content private, not public shared like YouTube's. Like, obviously you have to do that encrypted as well, right? So I don't need to sniff your password, I can just sniff the content.
Yeah.
So these are the type of things we see the most. And then again, a lot of things relating to architecture and how different components in the systems are talking to each other. You see a lot of times places where it's, a hacker can just hack into one component in the system and from that point impersonate that component and do anything in the system because it's all trusted.
Yeah. What other kinds of threats are you seeing? Because with the Google problem, we saw the Chinese government sponsoring this, and they're using now social attacks as well, right? So they're trying to figure out, oh, how do I get Ron to do something? You know, well, I'll ask Rocky to ask you to do something, right? And if you trust Rocky, he'll probably go and do it, right? This is sort of how some of the I've seen early viruses get around the office, right? Because the email came from somebody you knew, and you clicked on it, you know, because you're stupid. But not really stupid, right? Most people, they trust their friend, and if their friend emailed them, they're going to click on it because they think it's their friend, right?
I just saw a really nice, well, not nice, but, you know, nice attack. People steal your phone and then send through it emails and SMSs to all your friends saying you got stuck traveling, you were robbed, and you have no money left, and all you have is this phone, and you have to get them to help you, and if they can just wire you $200 so you can buy a ticket back or something like that. I got 3 of those in the recent few weeks.
And that's stuff that your systems can't really protect it on, although you might start thinking about how would humans react and put password, you know, are there ways to help humans put some resistance to social attacks, right? But that's not really what you guys do, is it?
No, it's not what we do. But yeah, there are ways. I mean, my iPhone is password protected, for instance. So, you know, it's a start, although I've seen a really nice clip on how to bypass the iPhone password. So it's only halfway there, but Apple promises that in OS 4 it will be better.
Yeah. So what does your software do? If it's both methodology, right? So I get some training, and then I get some software to put into my code. What does it do? Tell me what your company's products do.
The product's called Seeker,
yeah,
and it's designed for QA and developers to use it as part of the development lifecycle for the testing part. Essentially, it's pretty hard for people to do security testing on their own. It requires a lot of skills, and they need an automated solution to help them with that. The product will essentially integrate into their development environment and will allow them to do tests as part of their development. You know, if they have nightly builds, automatic testing, and test for security vulnerabilities as new code is written.
Okay.
And the product is very focused on helping to find real security vulnerability. Not just, you know, it's very easy to look at the piece of code and say, you know, there are 500 things I'd like to be written nicer, but you know, if we take it to the other side, developers would usually want to only do what's really necessary because there's a cost associated with everything.
Yeah.
So our product is really focused on finding real vulnerabilities with real business risks. And the way it does it is by not just finding the potentially vulnerable code, but really creating an exploit for every vulnerability that it identifies and making sure that this is a real risk to the system. And then it's easy to prioritize what needs to be fixed immediately. And
it builds a report there showing what the code is that was bad, what the result is, right? It's pretty nice that a developer gets really informed by the system. Hey, you screwed up here, and here's where you screwed up, and here's what is going to happen if you don't fix this, right?
It's supposed to give a developer a peace of mind. He's supposed to do whatever is good in doing to develop an application, and while he's doing that, we'll give him the security aspect. So we'll test the application while he's doing his work, we'll notify him about the security problems, and he is keeping doing his work, which is fixing these problems.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how to buy this. How much does it cost, and what size team is this for?
Right now we have a version that is supposed to go to desktop version that is meant for developers and QA team people. It is per desktop. It is per each one of them has to buy its own license. It can be bought from us right now and from our partners and channels in the US and in Europe. The pricing is varied according to the number of licenses that you want to buy.
Cool. Tell me a little bit about the fundamentals of the company. How are you funded, and how are you guys doing?
Okay, so the company was founded in 2004 by Tal, which is not with us, and Ofer and I. We started as a service company for 4 years. We gave services to banks and insurance companies and lots of technologies companies in Israel and around the world. And last year we started to develop Seeker. We are doing it on a bilateral project with a French company called Coutume, and under the umbrella of the European Union. There is a technological section over there called Eureka, which supports projects like ours. And we've developed it for 1 year till now. We're supposed to get a GA on next month. And this is the basic.
Very cool. And what should we expect from you guys in the next year or so?
So
is it just keep doing what you're doing, or are you planning new features?
Yeah, we have a lot of very cool features down the pipeline. So maybe I'll talk a little bit about our technology. Our product uses a new approach for doing the assessment, and essentially the way it works is that it will look into the actual application process while it is running, and we'll see what's happening, how the code is executed, what happens in the memory, what goes to the database, and so on.
And that's quite different from your competitors, who they're trying to look in as a black box, right, and trying to pass stuff in there and see if it breaks, right?
Right.
It's a lot more accurate, it's a lot faster, and it also lets us do a whole lot of things that our competitors are not able to do. And you mentioned the reports before, so one of the benefits is, like you said, it really gives me a real view of everything that happens. So the developer can see the source code, they can see the actual, if it's a SQL statement, they can see the actual statement that was created dynamically during the execution. They could see the response, with the attack that we did. If we, with SQL Injection, we extracted some data from the database to show the attack. It's all very visual and very comfortable. So some of the features that we can do with this, we can do a lot of support for very complex environments where it's not just one segment of code, but you have several pieces of code activated synchronously or asynchronously by the work on the same data. It's 3 steps that complete a transaction. Our engine can correlate these and really produce a test that covers these things in a way that other products can't.
Cool.
We also work a lot on research in general. We publish papers and articles. We'll probably appear in some conferences in the upcoming year.
Very cool.
And the next version is going to support Enterprise Edition, which gives the enterprise a way to see the security situation in the development life cycle as a whole. Like a developer can see his own code and his own application that he's developing and what is the security situation over there. A team leader can see the few people in the team that are under him, and the CSO can see the situation in the development of all the application in the organization. So everybody can see and work together to set up what vulnerability will be treated in what version. So there is a lot of perspective for everybody how it's going to be developed.
Very cool. Where do I learn more about it?
In our website, which is www.seekersec.com.
Okay.
And our company website, which is www.hacktics.com.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for giving me a little view into the world of security and how companies should change yet again to protect themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.